guy. So he says, "You can't guard me. I'm telling you, I think this is going to be on the Super Bowl, but it's a resurrection of a concept that Old Spice had. Old Spice is the number one selling men's deodorant in America. It's not what I use, but I'll let you watch the commercial.
Can't guard me, I'm telling you.
Hello, son. Doing a little sporting, I see.
Dad, not cool.
You know it's not uncool? Old Spice After Hours. It whisks sweat away into the night with jazz.
Dad, I prefer Ultra Smooth. It handles sweat without all that jazz.
Let's settle this over a game
Don't
of...
say it.
Don't say what?
Horse.
That's my boy.
I love those Old Spice commercials. What's funny is it smell like your own man, but it's the number one selling deodorant, so you're going to smell like Old Spice, which is what everybody else smells like. So what can you do? It undermines its own premise. It's not smell unique, it's smell like these guys. But a lot of thought went into it because they're trying to appeal to the millennial, or whatever after millennial now. And they got the dads ice skating into the to the basketball court with a soccer ball in a towel. He's like, "What's your worst nightmare as a kid?" Although my dad didn't show up to anything, so that was okay. Now, I got some feedback from one of my kids that I shouldn't have so many side comments. That's a side comment. Anyway, let's look at Fishburne today. Any ideas to boost our customer satisfaction metrics? How about a bribe for high scores with a gift card? Make 10 the only legible choice on the survey. Only ask customers who are also my friends, or also are multi-buyers. Say the survey impacts my bonus, which I need for a new kidney, which is also probably true. Deliver a better customer experience. What? Deliver a better customer experience. Amy, let's keep ideas to things we can actually control. I didn't actually get this. Cartoon until just now. This is Amy, apparently. I should have labeled it. This is Amy. And Amy says, why don't we try and deliver a better customer experience to get the metrics? And the truth is, because that's too hard. You never know what those customers will say. And Tom, as usual, the best part about Tom's cartoons are almost his explanation of them. Because Net Promoter Score is the question, how likely are you to recommend this brand to your family, friends, and family? One score, right? Created by Fred Reichfield. And so you get a 2-digit number. And the most popular mechanism for gauging customer experiences can wreck customer experiences. And there's a good ad that illustrates that here. Please rate your satisfaction with all the customer satisfaction surveys we keep sending you. I'm starting to regret buying whatever I apparently bought. Now, I was on with FedEx last night, and they said, and it was not. It really worked out well, but they didn't get what I was trying to do. There's a drop box right next to me, and I had missed a delivery, and I said, why don't they just come back when they're picking up at the drop box at 6 p.m.? And apparently that was logistically difficult. But after 3 or 4 calls, when they called back, now the customer service was in the middle, where they basically decided they couldn't do anything for me. I don't remember what I said, but the question was framed in a way that, I didn't know how to answer. So I didn't. I hung up. But he's right that the process itself can affect the score. And I was talking with a client yesterday in person, believe it or not. And we were talking about how their change of the process affects the process. So my very first real boss in marketing, Vic Hunter, used to say, that two-time buyers, that's somebody who came back and bought a second time, were multiples more valuable than one-time buyers. And so you should incentivize people to buy a second time. And it seemed to me that his metric was created by looking at multi-buyers who had not been incentivized, who had enjoyed their experience and come back. Now to incentivize changes the game and changes the expectation for the customer for the next time they might buy. Now, it might still work, but it's the kind of thing that you really need to test because it changes the game. So one of the challenges for AI and for machine learning is the context. So we were talking about lookalike modeling, which I don't exactly believe in. What I believe in is don't look like. It's easier to identify customers that don't look like they're going to buy again than it is to identify the ones who will. Because the ones who will is kind of a little random. It sort of is. But the ones who won't, you can pretty much group them together. They don't have enough money or they don't have the right interest. Like we found that the best customers for Cabela's were the hunting buyers in Manhattan, kind of, upscale areas that didn't have hunting stores. But the worst customers for Cabela's were the females who bought like camouflage clothing in Manhattan. And we figured that what they were doing was buying it for a costume party. See how a lot of the same characteristics could be the very best customers, but the outfitters who wanted to go on safari would buy from Cabela's in Manhattan. And somebody who wanted to go to the costume party looking like an army man would also buy from Cabela's, but never buy again. So it's tricky, and you have to understand the context. So I was mentioning that I had done work for the Blood Center of Kansas City, and we did a profile of their customers and what stood out. It's a little product that we have that we can flip together in about 5 minutes now, with any list of customers or any list you want to look at. And so it turned out that their donors, and I don't really remember if this is the blood donors or this was I think it was the financial donors, but were all pretty much upscale white women. And I said, I'm thinking, but everybody has blood and, it doesn't matter, male, female, white, black. None of that matters. So I said, this seems to be a really odd profile. I said, where have you advertised for donors? And they said, oh, well, Kansas City Beautiful Homes and Kansas City Symphony Magazine and stuff like that. I said, why? And they said, well, because our entire board is like suburban white women, and they like to see the ads when they get placed in magazines they like to read. So what they'd done is they'd built a huge skew into their marketing, which, lo and behold, generated a huge skew in their donor base. And I said, you might want to test some other stuff. But see, machine learning rarely asks that question. What was the context? So not only do you need real-time data, but you need old-time data in order to predict the future. You need to set the context, and that makes things interesting and challenging. Okay? And that's why how you ask the question, if you ask the question today, it might be different, and it might get a different result than years ago when no one was asking the question. Or if you ask it in the context of 10 questions, Ford found out a longer survey was better than a shorter survey. So all great things to think about. We're not getting to Stephen Yu again today, but we'll cut it short now, as I think this was good. So when you're thinking about acquisition, I've seen consistently that web acquisition is about a quarter of catalog acquisition. So if you acquire a customer digitally, their downstream value is about 25% of if they're acquired through the mail. But it might cost more. It still might cost more than 4 times. So, it might be a wash. Digital might be easier for you. I'm not saying one way or the other. But what I am saying is be careful how you look at it, because if you then put a lot of incentives on that second order, it can also change the lifetime value. The longer the lifetime value, the more stable. But the longer the lifetime value, the less like today it is. Because what you did 5 years ago isn't the same. Your competitors aren't the same. The acquisition wasn't the same. And the retention programs aren't the same. Your products aren't the same. The economy isn't the same. You can say history repeats itself, but it kind of doesn't. As a history major, I can tell you. There are some lessons that may be applicable, but a lot of them aren't. And in that context, have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart.